I guess got that pop-up. Continue. Okay. Okay. Did you guys get that pop-up too? Everyone?
Yeah.
Get
Yes.
that pop-up? Okay.
Restart, Barry.
Okay. I can start again.
Yes.
But I want to welcome you all to our first IRT Live. We thought about doing this as a way of just keeping you all informed of some of the activities that we've done over the last few months, and also to have you give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. On this call, I have some senior staff members I'd like to introduce to you. We have Rose Uranga up in the upper right, if she's at least on my screen. And Rose is our Director of Operations and Program Development. And then over on the upper left is Eric Feckler, who is our Director of Philanthropy. And we also have Sabrina Clark, who's our Senior Accountant, who's down just below me.
Mhm.
So we're really glad to have you here. And I thought that if you guys can just go on to mute, just in case there's any kind of noises that are coming from your place. And then if you have a question, just remember to unmute we'll have questions, opportunity for questions after kind of each category that we go into. So again, this is an interactive type of event. We want you to ask as many questions as you have, and we welcome your feedback also. So I want to start with disaster relief. I wanted to just give you an idea of what some of the things we've done in the area of disaster relief. I want to talk first about COVID relief. Our COVID relief has been both international and domestic and local. We just recently sent personal protection equipment to India. We sent 60,000 protective gowns. That was our first shipment. We're hoping to do more. The reason why it takes a while to get there is that India is pretty bureaucratic, and the hospitals that we're trying to ship to need to get duty-free clearance, and a lot of them are in the process of getting that. And so we hope to do more shipments over the next couple of months to protect health workers who are on the front lines of the tremendous outbreak that's taking place in India right now. As far as our local COVID relief activities, we have already made 10 deliveries of food, substantial quantities of food, truckloads of food from May 20th through this month. We have, from May 2020, I should say, through this month, we have delivered more than 600,000 meals to the San Diego Food Bank. And we have just received a grant to continue these shipments. So we anticipate that we'll be doing additional monthly shipments over the next 10 to 12 months to the food bank. So that kind of sums up what we've been doing in the area of COVID relief. And if you have any questions about that, please ask us now. Any questions? Okay, let's talk about some other relief activities. Syrian relief. As you know, the civil war in Syria.
Kid's got a question, Barry.
Wait, question? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Barry, it just occurred to me to ask if your contacts in the medical field have, in cooperation with IRT, have been involved in COVID-19 tracking, testing, and/or administering the vaccines throughout the county.
I know that some of our volunteers are involved in that, but not under the auspices of IRT. They've been involved with that through their own individual hospitals.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Let me talk about Syria. We're in the process of preparing another delivery of medicines and supplies to doctors who work on the Syrian border in Idlib province in Syria, and to refugees who are in the camps along the Syria-Turkey border. This next shipment is for $50,000 that we purchased the medicines in the Netherlands and will be delivered to the port of Mersin and then brought in Turkey and then brought in from there. this is our third shipment of medicines. We work with Save the Syrian Children, one of our partners, on site, and so that's what we're planning to do, or what we are doing. This next shipment actually will go out in two different deliveries, one later this month and one in September. So as you know, it's a complex situation there, and we're hoping to continue to provide help to the Syrian refugees along the border and to the doctors who are serving patients inside Idlib province. Any questions on that?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
I heard you say $50,000. Did you mean $50 million?
No, I mean $50,000. Unfortunately, sometimes we have the ability to leverage our donations by getting multiples when we get in-kind donations of medicines and supplies. Sometimes we can't get that, and we have to do direct purchases. And so we had to directly purchase our medicines and supplies for Syria from a discount supplier in the Netherlands, and then they are brought down to the port of Mersin, shipped down there, and then they're taken by our on-site partners into Syria.
I have a follow-up question, and it just occurred to me in my total ignorance. Is there any mechanism that you, IRT, use to ensure that what is sent gets to the intended destination for distribution, or that's just not possible?
No, we get reports. We get reports and pictures from our end users all the time. In almost all our programs, we require reporting so that we know that things are getting to where they're supposed to get to. So that is just our standard practice. Go ahead, Rose.
I just wanted to interject. We always work with partners where we don't have a presence in a particular country. We're working with partners that we have vetted over the years. So, we have confidence in our partners. And so we're not, delivering supplies, let's say, to a particular government entity. So, we're fortunate to have very reliable and efficient and trustworthy partners.
Yeah, we also vet not only our partners, but some of the end facilities that are in these countries through our partners. They're vetted also. So we feel very confident that our supplies are being distributed properly, and the reports we get are truthful reports.
Barry, I think Terry had a question.
Go ahead, Terry.
Well, it was kind of the same thing about how do you guarantee it's going to get to the end user that you desire, and I think that's been answered. Thank you.
Okay. All right. As you probably know, there was a volcanic eruption on the island of St. Vincent recently, and again, working with local partners and also U.S. partners, we provided food kits and water for 500 displaced families. Each of these kits feeds a family of 5 for 1 week. And we purchased this locally kind of as a bridge until larger quantities of food, water, and temporary shelter supplies arrived by sea container from some of our partners in here in the United States, who were also joining together to provide relief to the island. So that's how we did St. Vincent. So we were kind of like the bridge to get the immediate food and water purchased locally. And then our partners came in with containers to continue to help. The Minister of Health there said that he felt that the displacement from of the people around the volcanic area would last for months. So that's why we needed to bring in larger quantities of food by container. Any questions? Okay, I know you are familiar with what's happening in Myanmar and the expulsion of refugees or Rohingya people, the indigenous people that are mostly Muslim. And so this has been going on for the last couple of years, and we've been involved with relief efforts in Bangladesh, where the largest refugee camp for Rohingyas was set up in an area called Cox's Bazar. Just recently, we provided $50,000 worth of funds to help our partner, who is a concern worldwide. We're working with them in these camps, and they are providing, that money is providing local purchases of food, water, and shelter items. And this was in response to the fires that took place. You might have heard that the fires that took place in the refugee camps, leaving a lot of the refugees without shelter, water, and food. So I know that the government of Bangladesh is trying to set up more permanent shelters on a nearby island for the refugees, because there's over 1 million refugees now within Cox's Bazar, and they're trying to move to lower the density within that camp by moving these people to the more permanent shelters that are now being built on a nearby island. So any questions on that response by us? Okay, let me go on to Hurricanes Eta and Iota. As you know, Guatemala, Honduras got hammered about a couple of months ago by Hurricanes Eta and Iota. And we provided emergency food through our partners. Again, this is one of our core values, is trying to work through partners, local partners. It saves us a lot of money if we don't have to send our own personnel unless they are absolutely needed, which sometimes they are. But most of the times we try to work through local partners so we can put all the funds that we collect from our donors into actual relief supplies, and then let our partners distribute them. So we are working through two partners, one in Guatemala and another in Honduras, for the distribution of emergency food. And again, they provide us with reports and pictures of what they have done, and then we share them with our donors through our newsletter and other communications that we have. So we invested over $110,000 in food, and the food packs that were distributed were 33 pounds of food for each family, and that so that was a good amount of food for them to have. And so the situation is, again, a part of the migration coming north, which is for many different reasons, but part of it, what we're hearing on the news, is because families just lost everything due to these storms. So hopefully we can look at this long term and see what we can do as they start recovering. But that was our immediate response to that disaster. Any questions about that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
With the various disasters, is there a parallel effort by IRT to ask if, because of these disasters, people who don't have safe water or medical supplies or food are getting sick? Do the medical professionals with IRT go in at the same time to help in the medical area?
Well, sometimes we do. With COVID, this has been a real problem because of the restrictions of our own restrictions and keeping our volunteers safe, as well as restrictions by these countries. Normally, if it were not for COVID, our volunteers have gone into some pretty dicey situations. I mean, Rose led a team to Honduras after Hurricane Mitch, in which they had to take canoes to get to remote areas, and they lived in pretty austere conditions trying to provide medical relief. Unfortunately, because of COVID and the restrictions not only by our country and our desire to keep our volunteers safe, as well as restrictions in this country, we did not engage in a medical response to this disaster. Rose could also give you some tidbits on that Hurricane Mitch, because I thought it was a pretty extreme trip she was on. And, and they, you know, yes, we do, in answer to your question, Ted, we do go into areas when it is appropriate and necessary for us to dispense medical care. Okay, let me continue. Hurricane Dorian, you know, that hit in the fall of 2019. And as you know, we try to work through all stages of the disaster. We try to, the immediate stage, we try to respond. We try to help out in the intermediate phase, was where that's when we have people that have been affected by the disaster but have survived, and we're trying to keep them alive because they've been displaced. That can involve food, lodging, water, tents, sleeping bags, cooking utensils. So that's that intermediate stage. And then you get to the recovery stage, which usually involves getting people back into their homes. And so that's the stage we have been at for over the last year in the Bahamas. We made a commitment to repair more than 200 homes on the hard-hit islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco by hiring local contractors and purchasing building materials locally. And we had to, you know, after months of shutdown because of COVID, work has begun again. And I'm pleased to report that we have already repaired 194 homes. We have invested so far $452,000 into this effort to repair homes. And in fact, since the beginning of the disaster, in terms of the fact that we also responded immediately and for the intermediate care of people, we have invested over $900,000 in this disaster. And that's because of our donors who have really supported us in helping the people of the Bahamas. So any questions about the Bahamas and Hurricane Dorian and our response there?
I have another question.
Sure.
You perhaps have already mentioned it in some way or will, but within this context of COVID-19 over the last almost 18 months now, what has happened with your volunteer base and donor base? Is it going up, down, staying the same?
Well, Rose is going to address about the volunteer teams in just a minute. I will tell you this, we have been fortunate. Our donors have been very generous during this time. We did have an immediate drop off at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, where our revenues dropped by 50%. I think it had to do with overall uncertainty as to where this was going and how it was going to affect people individually. Then we recovered after those first 3 months, and our donations have pretty much held just the way they were in the previous year prior to COVID. And that's thanks to all our donors. That's really, we're so grateful because it's enabled us to do more than we thought we could do with regards to the various disasters that have happened during COVID. And so, any other questions on disaster relief, how we do it, what we do? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Rose and let her talk about our other programs, the non-disaster programs, and what we have done.
Okay, so Ted, you asked a good question. We have had to really shut down all of our teams that involve volunteers during this COVID situation. So for more than a year now, we have not had any volunteers doing our local programs, our Northern California programs, or our international programs. I'm we're very fortunate that we have very dedicated volunteers. They have continued to stay in touch with us, always wanting to know what's the latest. When do you think we'll be able to go back? When do you think we'll be able to continue this program? So, we are fortunate in that way. We have our backpack program where we serve 6 schools in San Diego. We provide weekly backpacks of food for a family of 4. And we've been in touch with the schools, and our goal is to restart this program in the fall once the schools are back in session. So they're very excited about it. They're very anxious to have us back, and we're getting everything in place as far as our food supplies and our volunteers go. Northern California, we have construction teams that we're going there regularly to rebuild after the fires that took place. We will be headed to Paradise now as soon as the area opens up again. We've been talking with our partner in Northern California to, not only make sure that the volunteers are safe as far as COVID is concerned, but also there are a lot of logistics to work out. So, this will be us just going into Paradise to work for the first time. So we have logistical issues such as, lodging for the volunteers. Right now, as you may have heard, the lumber has increased incredibly as far as price goes. And also it's becoming difficult to even get. So we're working on those logistics too, to make sure that when our volunteers go there, these are skilled volunteers. They're there, they're ready to work. And the plan is when we return that we will start framing houses there. We're hoping that will happen in July or August, but again, it really depends on whether we have lodging for our volunteers and whether we can get the materials. Our international programs, we've continued to stay in touch with our partners in both Guatemala and Honduras. They are doing well as far as the COVID situation. Their countries are not ready to have Americans go in at this point. And we don't feel like it's safe for our volunteers yet either. We are looking at restarting those programs in 2022. And that again, just depends on what happens with COVID in this country and in those countries too. We have our eyeglass teams in both Guatemala and Honduras, and we also have our surgical program in Honduras. And those are the ones that we're looking at restarting in 2022. Any questions on that? Ted?
Rose? Oh, sorry, Rose.
Yes.
The surgical teams that go into Guatemala, what type of surgeries are they doing?
Actually, the surgical teams are in Honduras.
Or Honduras, okay.
Yes, we're doing ear, nose, and throat.
Okay.
We partner with a hospital there. We've been working with them for many, many, many years. And they partner with a lot of different organizations. And so some organizations will provide, let's say, reconstructive surgery, and another group will provide orthopedic. But they had a great need for ear, nose, and throat. And we have a fabulous team that's been going there for a number of years to provide those surgeries.
Are they doing both pediatric and adult services?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ted, did you have a question too?
Yes, I'm asking too many questions. Here's another stray thought. I read something yesterday from, I don't think it was Weyerhaeuser, but one of the major firms who owns 11 million acres of forest and provides lumber to the country and wherever. And his comment that I read said that the price of lumber has to go down, but that was a general statement. Yet with that as background, my comment is there some entrepreneur out there who realizes that buildings can be built without lumber, whether it's clay or plastic or rubber or some other chemical composition, and maybe that's an avenue to explore.
Yeah, good point, Ted. We partner with, again, having a partnership. Our partners are the ones that are responsible for the on-ground logistics and purchasing of materials and supplies, and then we are providing the skilled labor. I know that they have been in this business for years and years and years, and certainly are looking at other alternatives. Right now, I don't know the specifics of what those alternatives are.
Let me add also that, in the United States, since these are homes that are being rebuilt in the United States, there is limited alternatives, because this is not in another country where you can look at plastic and other types of materials. Most of the times, the community wants to have some conformity, and so I think we are looking at lumber pretty much, because these are U.S. homes.
And just the building permit process too has been quite lengthy and difficult. So I can only imagine if they were to introduce something else. Okay, let me talk about Kids Kingdom. Kids Kingdom is an orphanage just right outside of Ensenada. It is home to 43 children who have been abandoned, many of them severely abused. We have been supporting Kids Kingdom for a number of years, and we provide all of the funding so that the kids have 3 nutritious meals a day. And we also provide the funding so that they're able to go to school. In Mexico, and a lot of countries, in order to go to school, kids have to have a uniform, they have to provide their own books, they have to provide their own pencils, paper, and so without those things, kids aren't able to go to school. And of course, education is critical in fighting poverty. So we provide all of the support so that those 43 children can go to school. We've over the years have seen just amazing results from this orphanage. We have kids in college now that have gone on, raised in this home, gone on to college, have become professionals, have really risen out of poverty. And, a lot of the credit goes to the directors of this orphanage. They've made it a home rather than an orphanage. And it's a wonderful experience to visit. And if you ever, have the desire to do that, we would love to have you go. The kids have been remote learning for the past year, and they hope to be going back to classes in the fall. Again, Mexico has their own problems with COVID and monitoring that situation, but the kids actually have held up quite well during this COVID situation. And I have a plane going over right now. You might be able to hear that. But they've done quite well. A little computer lab was set up at the orphanage. So we continue to support that program. Any questions there?
Rose, one of the
Yes.
Graduates from that orphanage that went on to college might be a good speaker at a future IRT fundraiser.
Great.
If they can cross the border and depending on their English, etc. But I think it'll be very inspiring for IRT volunteers and the people who contribute or at the gala to see what their contributions have accomplished.
That's a great idea, Chris. We're always looking for beneficiaries that can talk directly to our donors and volunteers. And I think you're right. We've been so inspired by these graduates, and we've known them. We've seen them grow up in the orphanage. We know their backstory. We know how they, you know, lived on the streets and ate out of garbage cans, and how they came to Kids Kingdom, and the struggles that they had. You know, many of them had never attended school before. So to go from the situation of living on the streets and not attending school to becoming graduates and real role models for the other children in the orphanage has been fabulous. And I think that's a great idea, Chris. I'm writing that down. Any other questions? Okay, I'll move on to our food program in Guatemala. Guatemala has the fourth highest chronic malnutrition rate in the world. It's estimated that 50% of children under the age of 5 are mentally and or physically stunted. We've had a food program in Guatemala for a number of years, and, you know, working to fight the problem of malnutrition. Last year in 2020 in the fall, we started our food distribution, but we contracted with a food producer in Guatemala to make fortified food supplements. And then we were able to distribute those supplements to nearly 13,000 infants and small children that are most vulnerable to malnutrition. It's critical that malnutrition is addressed early on. And that's why we target the infants and small children in an effort to prevent the physical and mental stunting that can take place with malnutrition. So we've been very successful in this program, and you know, really been able to help in providing nutrition to these very vulnerable populations. Questions there? Okay.
I want to comment just a minute.
Sure.
We felt that program was so important that we did it on our own nickel, so to speak, last year, and contacted, as Rose said, the local food producer. In the past, we've been able to get a USAID grant, but the grants to the Central American Triangle in 2020 were halted, and so we felt it was so important to the children that we were helping and the families we were helping that we decided to do it on our own. But I'm pleased to announce that this year we did get the grant again, and so we'll be able to do it on the taxpayers' money rather than on our own, on our donors' funds, and we will continue this program this year.
We invested about $155,000 to support that program, as Barry said, on our own nickel. So that's money that was, you know, donated by our very generous donors that was made it possible for us to continue this program on our own. Okay, I'll move on to Medicines for Children. Many of you are familiar with that program, and we delivered more than $47 million in critically needed medicines to clinics and hospitals that serve poor families in Niger, Cameroon, and Liberia. These are extremely poor countries. Both Niger and Cameroon are experiencing a major influx of refugees that are fleeing Chad and Nigeria right now, trying to escape kidnapping, rape, torture that has been carried out by Boko Haram. an extremist terrorist group. So our medicines that we send to these countries are absolutely critical. We have a hospital in Niger that we have been supplying with medicines for a number of years. And we hear reports that, if our medicines weren't there, these people would have nothing. So little children that are, suffering from disease would just go without, and in a lot of cases would die. So this program is extremely important and, funded generously by our donors and volunteers. Any questions on that? Okay, if not, then I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk about the gala.
Hi again, everybody. Yeah, I have the happy task of talking about our annual Gifts of Hope Gala, and I'll be brief because I know that we're getting close to time. But last year, as most of you know, our annual gala, we needed to go virtual because of COVID. And we had to make some decisions early on this year. And so out of an abundance of caution, we decided that this year, one more time, we would be virtual with our gala. So that's going to happen this September 25th at 5 o'clock. And we're real excited because what we found out last year was that this was a real opportunity for us because, as you know, our gala is held in San Diego, but we have donors and supporters all across the United States. And so we were able to invite everyone to join us. And that was really wonderful to see that more people were able to be part of this great event. And one of the highlights of the event is that we have an opportunity drawing, and folks are able to participate. And some of the wonderful drawings that we have this year is a dream vacation to anywhere in the world. And we've got a Holland American cruise, a brand new iPad Pro, an e-bike, and Wine of the Month Club. So we're real excited about that. There'll be some wonderful inspirational presentations during the event. And so we really hope that you all can make it again and be part of that. And we do have sponsorships available. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. With that, I'll just ask if anyone has any questions. I see no hands. So I'll turn this back over to Barry. Oh, Barry, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
There we go. We got a question on regards to me in regards to as you know, I was starting to retire right before COVID hit. And we had hired an executive search firm to look for my successor. And that had to be put on hold back in March of 2020. We have this month re-engaged with the executive search firm to begin the search for my successor. So that is ongoing. Not sure how long that will take, but I just, in answer to the question that was posed, yes, it's back on the burner, and we'll see how this all transpires. Do anyone have any other questions about anything, about any of our processes, procedures, how we do things? We wanted this to be as educational for you as possible. And so if anyone have any other questions? Well, I want to thank you for joining us for our first IRT Live. We hope you'll join us again in about 3 months when we have our second edition. We can bring you up to date on what we've accomplished over the next 3 months. And thank you again for all your support, your longtime support of IRT. We are most grateful for that support. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. So thank you again.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Rose. Thanks,
Bye-bye,
Eric.
everybody. Thank you.